All right, so you just made it to the trails and you're ready for a killer day of riding. Maybe even hit that PR you've been hunting down for a while. But as you're getting ready, you notice like, ooh, my body's feeling a little stiff and a little creaky even.
Yeah, you notice that coffee helped your brain but didn't do much for your body.
That's a good point. You might be wondering like, what can I do to loosen up? Is there anything I do to, I don't know, maybe warm up?
Well, lucky for you, we've got that coming on today's video.
Did we get it? We got it? We nailed that take. Yeah!
Woo!
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, my name's Travis Colville. This is my classmate and colleague, Spencer Barnes. Go ahead and say hi, Spencer.
Hey Spencer, mountain bikers.
Seriously, Spencer, come on. Anyways, today we're gonna be talking about, well, you guessed it, warming up before you ride. And we're not talking about, what you might typically think of as a warm-up, like traditional stretching before you ride.
Yeah, it's important to know the difference between a static, sustained stretch and a more dynamic warm-up where you're moving around through space. There's actually evidence to show that static stretch before you exercise may actually increase your risk of injury and can hinder your performance.
Absolutely so. And the reason it can hinder your performance is muscles like to work at a certain length, and when you stretch before you perform your activity, you possibly are taking them out of that comfort zone and they are unable to produce as much force.
Yep, and it's important to note as well, a couple of key points when you go to make your own warm-up routine. The best warm-up routine is one that you'll do, so none of this matters if you don't do it, right? From there, we like to have a plan when we do a warm-up. So we like to go top to bottom. You might like to go work your way up from your feet, left to right. Whatever it is, as long as it works for you, that's great. We also like to make sure you hit all your main joints. You don't have to hit every tiny joint in your finger, but everything main that you're gonna use, go ahead and warm that up. And the last thing is make it specific. So this warm-up routine, the ones that we're presenting today, they're specific to mountain biking, but they'd look different if we were doing a different activity.
Absolutely. So with those things in mind, I want to talk about the benefits of a dynamic warm-up. And so when you're doing a dynamic warm-up, you're going to increase your body temperature, you're going to increase your heart rate, you're going to prep your lungs for the activity, you're going to wake up your nervous system, you get the chance to run all your joints through their available range of motion, just get them ready, and then you're going to prime the muscles that you're going to be using, and then you're going to allow your brain and your body to talk to each other and prepare and coordinate things better so that overall your body is ready for what you're about to throw at it instead of going in at it cold. Okay, so now you know a little something about dynamic warm-up. We're going to take you through two different styles that we created. One is going to be just a single joint flow, the other one's going to be a multiple joint, multi-muscle warm-up. And ideally, you would just do both of these before your ride, but depending on how much time you have or anything like that, you do one, the other, or a mix of both.
Yeah, and both are meant to be trail side, so you're going to be standing the whole time. We won't make you get on the ground.
Or we won't make you, butt kickers across the trailhead and back in front of all those rad riders out there. You won't have to worry about looking like kind of a weirdo, you know what I mean? I'm that weirdo. All right, so let's get to warming up. To start, we're gonna do the single joint flow from top to bottom, beginning with the neck with something called neck cars. And the goal with this is to draw the biggest circle you can with the tip of your nose in a nice, slow, controlled manner. And you're gonna do 5 of them in one direction and 5 in the other, hitting all the major muscles that support and control the head and neck. So next we're going to move on to shoulder shrug circles. And the idea here is you want to bring the shoulders up to your ears, down and back, pinch your shoulder blades, drop them down. Draw in nice and controlled circles, just warming up all the muscles around the shoulder blade. And we're going to do 10 of those. So after completing those, we're going to move on to shoulder cars. And here, you're just going to make a big circle with your arm and shoulder. And when you start, you want to have your thumb facing up. So you're coming up as far as you can, and you're going to rotate and bring it down. You want to keep your shoulder low. So if in doing this, you start to feel your shoulder popping up, just use your hand to give yourself a little cue there to keep it down. We're going to do 5 of these per side, just warming up the muscles and supporting structures around that shoulder and the rotator cuff. And in doing the shoulder cars, if you notice, when I get up there, it's kind of painful, you can modify it by putting your hands to the back of your head, rotate them down, put them in your lower back. That's going to hit all the same motions as the standard cars we showed you already. Now we're going to move on to the wrist with some wrist circles. And these are pretty simple, nice controlled big circle with the wrist, warming up that joint and the muscles associated with it. And we're just going to do 10 of those bad boys. So up on deck, that's going to be T-spine or upper back rotations. Everyone go down, bend down with a generous bend in your knees. Touching your toes, you're going to open your chest up by bringing one hand up to the sky in a nice controlled arc of motion. If this is difficult, you can move up to your knees and do the same thing. And this is just going to warm up the spine in that area and all the musculature around it. So we're going to do 5 reps per direction or per side. So then we're moving on to lumbar spine or low back range of motion work. And you're going to keep a nice bend in your knees, drop down, touch your toes, and then you're going to bring your hands up to your hips and extend as far back as you can and repeat. And this is going to warm up the spine in that region and all the muscles and the structures that support it. And we're going to be going for 5 of them from touching your toes up to full extension. Okay, to stick with the top-down approach, we're going to move into the hips here with something called hip opening. What we're going to do is bend the knee up, rotate it out, down, and bring it back over. In this, you want to make sure the movement is coming from the hip joint itself, and you're not rotating your body. You keep it nice and straight. And this is going to warm up the hip capsule or the joint and all the muscles surrounding the hip. We're going to do 3 to 5 of these per side. Now the last thing we're going to be doing in this single joint portion here is going to be at the ankles, so we're going to do some ankle circles just to warm up that joint. Then we're going to do 5 of them in one direction and then switch and 5 in the other, and that's per side. And once you're done with that, we're going to move on to heel raises to toe raises. And we're going to do 5 of those, 5 heel raises, 5 toe raises, just to warm up the ankle joint some more and all the supporting structures and muscles of the lower leg. So that concludes the first flow, the single joint flow. So we're going to move on to the next portion here.
Yeah, so our second flow is going to be using multiple joints at one time. We're going to do these exercises a little bit quicker and a bit more deliberate to really make sure we get that heart rate and body temperature up and make sure that coordination is dialed in before we go riding. So our first exercise is going to be what's called a steam engine. You're going to come up on one leg and you're going to rotate at your spine to that up leg, making sure that we don't bring your elbow down towards the knee at all. We're just getting nice, tall rotation. And for this, we're doing 10 to each side. All right, so our second exercise is what's called the skater. So you're gonna have one planted leg and one moving leg that's gonna go from a lunge position to a high knee. And you're gonna use your arms to counterbalance your legs to really get that lunging, jumping, or sprinting motion. You're gonna do 10 on one side and then switch and do 10 on the other side. All right, so our next exercise is a squat. So you're gonna have your legs where you like to put them. You're gonna go down into a comfortable depth. And for this, we're trying to keep the focus on tempo. So we're doing 10 at a nice, consistent pace. Okay, so our fourth exercise is what's called a Cossack squat. So you're gonna bring your feet wider than your shoulders, and all you're gonna do is shift your weight over one foot and then over the other foot, staying in a nice controlled and pain-free range. Now, if you're only able to go down a little ways, that's totally fine. The focus here is on warming up the muscles around the hip more than it is the depth. For this, we're going for 10 to each side. All right, so the last exercise for this flow is gonna be a push-up. Now you can use your bike, a car, a fence post, anything that's around you.
We have a gym, but we also have a bike, so we're gonna use that.
So the first part of this is you're gonna make sure that you have a nice stable surface to push from, because we really don't like lawsuits over here. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna stand at a nice angle, you're gonna bring your chest towards the surface you're pushing from and push back out against it, making sure that you are focusing on control and tempo and not necessarily on going as low as you can. For these, we're looking for about 10.
So there you have it. 2 different warm-ups, 1 single joint, 1 multi-joint, and ideally your best bet is to do them together to really warm up the body. But if you're short on time, you can do one or the other or mix and match the 2 together. And keep in mind, this isn't the holy grail of warm-ups by any means, and there's plenty of other ways to warm up your body and different exercises you can do. We just found this one to be pretty encompassing and really effective.
And like we talked about before, the best warm-up is one that you'll do consistently. So none of this matters if you don't do it. So it's really important that you find a flow and a style that works best for you.
Anyway, we really hope that this helped you out, and we hope that you use it before a ride, and let us know your experiences if you do. If you enjoyed this kind of content, then consider subscribing to the channel. That way you don't miss out on future strength and conditioning for mountain bike videos or just mountain bike riding in general. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Now let's cue the bikes and the metal.